All right, let's dive in. Today we're going to talk about a story of incredible courage, one that comes to us from all the way back in the 3rd century. It's the story of Saint Agatha. And her life really makes you stop and think. It forces you to ask a really tough question.
It's a question that gets right to the heart of what it means to have conviction, right? And Agatha's life, well, it gives us a powerful, maybe even a challenging answer. Her story is so much more than just ancient history. It's a really profound look into what faith and integrity are all about.
So let's get into it. Who was this remarkable woman? Well, Saint Agatha is one of the most, and I mean most, revered figures from the early days of the Christian Church. Her story drops us right into 3rd century Sicily, in a city called Catania, during a time when the Roman Empire was brutally persecuting Christians. So picture this. Agatha is born into this really wealthy, noble family. She could have had anything she wanted, but even when she was young, she made this incredibly radical choice. She decided to consecrate her life completely to her faith, taking a vow of virginity. Now you can imagine, that decision set her on a collision course with a very powerful Roman official, a guy named Quintianus. He apparently became obsessed with her and demanded she give up her faith and marry him.
And look, this wasn't just her saying no thanks. For Agatha, this was the defining moment of her life. It was a conscious, courageous choice. She was actively choosing her spiritual commitment over everything else: worldly power, her own safety, her social status, all of it.
And we actually have her recorded words, which are just, wow, so powerful. When she says this, it's not just her turning down a proposal. It's a deep, profound statement about who she is and where her ultimate allegiance lies. She is making it crystal clear where her loyalty is, no questions asked. Yeah, as you can probably guess, Quintianus did not take this refusal well, not at all. Her choice kicked off this absolutely brutal chain of events, all designed to do one thing: break her spirit. But, as we're about to find out, her spirit was truly unbreakable. What she went through was just horrific. She was thrown in prison, publicly humiliated, and the historical accounts detail just extreme torture. The most famous and most cruel act was having her breast removed. And this wasn't random. It was a very specific attack on her femininity and her identity as a woman consecrated to God. And yet, through all of that unimaginable suffering, her faith never wavered. Not for a second. In fact, the story goes that she actually forgave her persecutors, just completely entrusting herself to God. It's just an extraordinary display of grace under the most extreme pressure you can possibly imagine. She eventually died from her injuries around the year 251. And here's the part that just hits you in the gut. She was only about 20 years old. Just 20. A whole life given for a timeless conviction. But Agatha's story, it doesn't end with her death. Not by a long shot. In fact, you could say that's where her legacy really begins. That's when she transforms from a historical figure into this powerful spiritual symbol that's still inspiring people to this very day. Because of the specific kind of suffering she endured, she's become the patron saint for people facing similar struggles. And this is where her story becomes so incredibly relevant today. People pray to her. Breast cancer patients, nurses, survivors of sexual assault, these see her as a symbol of strength and hope. And back in her hometown of Catania, she's seen as the city's ultimate protector, a role she apparently takes on in a very dramatic fashion. Yeah, this protector role is tied to a really incredible story. So, the local tradition in Sicily says that about a year after she died, Mount Etna erupted. And as you can imagine, people were terrified. They grabbed her burial veil, ran towards the advancing lava, and held it up. And what happened? The lava flow miraculously stopped, saving the city. It became this incredibly powerful symbol of her protection. Okay, but there's another layer to her story, a deeper theological one. And it has to do with the timing of her feast day, which is February 5th. It creates this really fascinating spiritual connection to another major Christian celebration that happens just a couple of days before. And that celebration is Candlemas, which falls on February 2nd. If you're not familiar, it's the day that commemorates Mary and Joseph presenting the baby Jesus at the temple. And it's a huge moment because it's when he's recognized by the prophets Simeon and Anna as the light of the world. So it's a feast all about dedication, purity, and that divine light. So what's the connection? Well, think of it like this. On one hand, you have Candlemas, which is about the offering of the Son of God. And then you have Agatha's story, which is about offering her own life to God. Candlemas celebrates Christ as the light of the world, right? while Agatha's life is like a living light that reflects that same divine light through her own faith. See the parallel? They're both these incredibly powerful expressions of purity, dedication, and integrity.
So the fact that their feast days are so close together, that's not seen as just a coincidence. It's spiritually significant. It's like together they tell this bigger story about the triumph of divine light over darkness. A light that was first revealed in Christ and then lived out by his followers, people exactly like Agatha. So what do we take away from all of this? I think St. Agatha's story, which is echoed through, nearly 2,000 years, is this powerful reminder. It shows us that staying true to what you believe in, your faith, your principles, your conscience, that kind of unwavering conviction can literally become a source of light for the world. And that brings us to one final thought, something to really reflect on. We live in a world that constantly asks us to compromise. So the question is, what's the light inside of you? What's that core conviction that you feel called to protect, no matter what? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me.